Getting clients for your creative business is one of the most important challenges when you're growing your own company. But how does that actually work? And once you have a bit of interest, how do you go from a few emails to a fully sustainable business? There's definitely more than one way to do this. So my goal today is to give you options of different paths and then for you to be able to pick the one that best suits you. So let's get started with your very first 10 clients. I'm going to call this stage the exploration stage. The goal when you're at this very early stage is forming the foundation for your business, so getting to understand who your customers are and what services you want to offer. Getting to know yourself, so understanding the type of projects that you really enjoy. Start building your brand and getting the word out. And developing your initial creative process. I know videos like these usually have a really long section about getting to know your customers and picking a niche. This is super important, but in my experience, it's really difficult to do this without actually talking to a lot of people and getting to know them and their problems in person. Just doing desktop research, it means that we often miss a lot of interesting information, like why they started their business in the first place or what problems that they come up against day to day. Here are the steps that I would do to lay that foundation if I was starting a new business today before I focus on any marketing at all. Step 1 is do a little soul searching. Why do you want to start a business and what do you actually want to get out of it? What are you really passionate about? And this could be both the type of work that you're doing, but also the outcomes that you could get, like having the ability to work from home or travel while you work, for example. Having these really clear motivations, it will help you define what services that you want to offer and who is going to benefit from those services. It also helps a lot when you're actually building up your business and things are taking time, because motivations that are just money are just not really going to work because it takes time to build a business. Number 2 is to create your initial value proposition. As I mentioned before, at this stage it's really difficult to know exactly what value you're offering to people. But use your best judgment to create something that you think will be short and easy to understand for people if they ask you for an elevator pitch or just like a one sentence about what you're offering. As you learn more and you talk to people, you can always update it. This description can be great to put in places like your social media description, or if you talk to someone in person and you need a quick, easy way to describe what it is that you do. Number 3 is to get your portfolio and your social media accounts to a good baseline. Clients always love to see examples of your work, much more than the exact names you worked with or if you have an education in design. It just helps de-risk the collaboration if they can see that the work they've done before is of quality that they are looking for. Since you don't have any client work at this point, create a couple of personal projects that you think really reflect the type of people that you want to work with. Have a look at competitors in your area that are also offering similar design services and see the type of work that they present and how they present it. Are they using certain types of mock-ups or are they telling the story in a certain way? And try to get your portfolio as close as possible to that quality without taking too much time. When it comes to social media, my biggest tip is to pick one platform that you think will be a place where you will enjoy creating content for, but also where your customers will actually be. It's easy to feel tempted to pick every platform because in theory you have more reach. But what usually happens is that you don't get particularly good at either of those platforms, and also it just takes so much time, it becomes really overwhelming. When we first started out, we tried posting to Instagram, to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to Pinterest and our own blog, and it was just really, really overwhelming. Think about the type of connection that you want to make with your customers and the type of content that you are comfortable creating. So for example, if you want to build a very personal connection, but you don't really feel that comfortable going to meet people in person, maybe doing Instagram Reels where you show up in person and give tips and advice, much like this video, for example, can be a really good option because you're building that rapport with someone on the other side of the screen. If you like to write instead, for example, maybe setting up a blog on LinkedIn could be a really good idea, and engaging with the overall community to have conversations about your articles and other articles to help build that network there. I think it's really worth taking a little bit of time to research the type of work that goes into succeeding on each platform. So try to get an understanding for what it needs from you to actually succeed on each platform and pick one that feels right for you. I think it's then important to populate it with a couple different posts. Maybe let's say 6 different posts for Instagram or 3 different blogs if you're doing a LinkedIn blog, for example, just so that people can see that you've been active and get a sample of the type of things that you're sharing. Number 4 is to consider your taste to skill gap. This term is a way to explain that feeling when you know that a design that you've created is not exactly where you want it to be, but you can't exactly put your finger on why. You're really good at noticing when other creatives' work is really good or really not good, but it's difficult to implement that with your own work. As we do a lot more work, we'll start to notice why something isn't working, and that's the only way to bridge that gap. The reason I bring this up is so that you're aware of it when you're feeling frustrated about your own work, because it can be really discouraging to share something if you're not feeling fully happy with it. So be nice to yourself and remember that the only way to get better is to practice. In a little bit, we're going to create our marketing strategy. And before we do that, I think it's really important to remember that as a new business, when you've ticked off all the items on your to-do list for your marketing, put down your phone and have that space to feel like you've done enough. Because I remember when I started my business, it was really easy to feel like if I don't have enough customers, I'm not allowed to stop marketing, to stop posting, to stop commenting, and that can become a really vicious circle because marketing takes a long time and you can't expect those results right away. So you need space to rest, to be creative, to learn, to do other things. So put down your phone if your marketing to-do list is done. The very last step before we dive into marketing is to create a clear process and to dot all the I's. When you're running a business, so much of your time will go to project management, marketing, and admin, for example. As you're growing, you can outsource some of these tasks if you like, but I think it's really important that we try them out so we understand what actually goes into creating these things and we know what to look out for when we're hiring someone. I think my only exception that I have for this is accounting. Accounting is a really complex task that is so much better done by someone who knows all the rules, and even though it's an expense early on in your business, it can save so much stress and so much money, to be honest, from things like fees and just knowing the rules in general. It also just frees up your time to work on your portfolio, on your marketing, and developing your skills as a creative business. Making sure that you have a good proposal, that you have a design contract, and that you know how people can pay you in different ways will also help you look a lot more professional once you start talking directly to customers. And you're a lot more likely to turn that lead into a customer. Just like understanding our customers, our process will inevitably change as we grow and we learn new things, but set up something that feels like a good foundation. And if you want tips on how to do that, you can check out this video that I'm going to link both in the description and up here. That is a really good overview of what a creative process could look like. So now that you laid a great foundation, it's time to have a look at marketing and creating a solid sales funnel for your business. A sales funnel is just another way of saying that we need to think about the different stages that someone goes through when they're buying from us. For a creative business, those stages are usually something like awareness, consideration, sale, and maybe repeat sale. So we want to have a think about how people are thinking in each of these stages, how we are presenting our business in those stages, and how we can help them move from one stage to the other. I think most people in the beginning struggle with the first stages, meaning getting enough people to see your work and get in touch about a project. This is the marketing portion. Once we get past them actually sending you an email, we start going into the sales portion, if that makes sense. Once you're in the sales portion, it's really important to have a compelling proposal, have a nice chat with them, maybe over the phone or over a virtual meeting, for example, and then having a way for us to discuss how to set everything up together so that they feel comfortable saying yes to a project. So let's look at that first challenging bit, the marketing bit, to get your first 10 customers. We have to remember that all marketing strategies are long-term strategies. Unless you have a massive budget that you can blast on ads, which is a really inefficient method to go about things, we have to expect things to take time. Of course, we can get lucky and meet a client at our very first networking event or post a reel that goes viral, but most of the time we have to think about how to build up that trust and connection with us in a way that is going to be consistent. I'm going to share 5 ways that you can get people into the top of your funnel, and which one fits you best is really going to be up to your personality and the way that you want to run your business. My first strategy is to attend small, local networking events. This is how Jeremy and I got our very first clients. We went to 2 different events. One was a workshop about sustainable business where there was like 10 people, and we were able to connect with 2 of them who became our 2 first customers. And then after that, we went to a convention about running a social business and a social enterprise where we were the only designers and stood out kind of like a sore thumb, but it was a great opportunity and we got our third client from there. When you go to these really big networking events, they tend to be really unpersonal and people are just really focused on handing out as many business cards as they can. Instead, going to these smaller events, especially if they have a theme that's related to the industry that you're interested in, is going to be a great way for you to go and learn about your customers and do that kind of niching down research. But it will also be a great way for you to have more in-depth conversations with people. If people ask why you're at these events, if it's an industry-specific event, you can just let them know that you're there to learn and that you're hoping to help design for that specific industry. If you have a great conversation with someone and a genuine connection, I think the best way to proceed is to ask if they want to grab a coffee a different day. Try to see it not so much as a hard sales pitch, but as a way to get to understand their business and then see if there's a way that you can help, and just as a way to learn. I think these connections, even if they don't become a customer right away, are great people because they're going to be part of your new network that could either become a customer in the future or refer someone to you if they think they have someone that would be a good fit. Strategy number 2 is to find creative partners. This has been by far the most effective strategy for our personal business. As creatives, we have a lot of different skills, but there's such a wide variety that clients need help with. Instead of us trying to master website design and branding and copywriting and illustration and animation, it's better to find different people who specialize in those different things and create a network of people who can refer each other and collaborate on projects. This way, as one of you brings in a client, you can all benefit from it. So it makes marketing a lot easier, and as all of you grow, you're basically helping lift each other up. How you decide to structure this is totally up to you, but it's always important to think about risk. I think the easiest way to do it is that everyone's an independent contractor and you're collaborating on projects where you're each sending your own contracts and you're each sending your own invoices. That way, if a client, let's say, goes bankrupt or refuses to pay you, it's not one of you being stuck trying to pay everyone else and not getting paid. It's also a great opportunity to learn from other people's creative processes and understand how they are able to create a great customer experience. And we always like to create a joint process together with those partners so that we know that, for example, every time we create a website project with someone, we have the exact same steps that we go through, and it makes it a lot easier for us to pitch it to a client. Most clients really love this because it basically gives them the resources of a big agency without the kind of bureaucracy or slowness that can happen in a bigger company. And you get people who are specifically tailored to bring the skills that that project needs. Number 3 is social media, because of course we have to mention social media in filling that funnel with people who are interested in your work. I think social media is a really important pillar in any marketing strategy, but I just want to set expectations for what is important to remember when you're crafting your marketing strategy. For us, it took 6 months to get our very first customer through LinkedIn, about 1.5 years on YouTube, about 2 years on Instagram, and about 1 year through Pinterest. As I mentioned, we were trying to do way too many things at the same time, and if we would have narrowed down, it might have gone faster. But most of these things don't happen overnight, so it's important to see social media as one of the pillars and not necessarily the only pillar when you're just starting out. A lot of platforms are saying that you need to post really often and really consistently. And I think that can be both a great and a not so great thing. The great thing is that basically to get better, you have to practice. If you go and scroll back into some of the original videos in this channel, you can see that I didn't have a script, I was not used to talking to camera, and I just didn't have good audio or visual quality. The first one is that your clients will have a clear overview of the project. Although, of course, that can feel embarrassing to put out, I doubt most of you have actually scrolled back to look at those. And the only way that I got to a point where hopefully it's a little bit better was by doing all of those videos, because I had that skill to taste gap already for the videos as well. So I didn't know exactly what to fix before I had made a ton of them. The negative part, of course, can be that it's very overwhelming to try to post, let's say, every day. I think it's important to remember that there are lots of accounts that don't post every day, that post quality content instead, let's say once a week or once every 2 weeks, and create something that is absolutely stunning or easy to connect with, and that is a lot more effective than just posting something every day. We can also use things like batching, for example, to create a lot more content without having to pick up the camera every day to create something new. For example, right now, I'm actually recording 3 videos that we're going to be putting out over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So instead of me having to get ready and put up the camera and charge the batteries, all those different times, I'm just doing it once. Some people like to point out that we are all born with 24 hours in a day, and although that is true, we all have very different responsibilities, different brains that work in different ways. So make sure that you're being nice to yourself and are setting something that is going to realistically work with, let's say, what your other job situation is, or if you have kids, or if you need to rest a lot more than people in general. So be nice to yourself and set realistic expectations. Number 4 is to use portfolio sites to show your work. Places like Behance and Dribbble are already primed to be a place that people go when they're looking for hiring designers or looking for inspiration. In my experience, agencies are a little bit more likely to go look for creatives on these sites than clients are, and that might just be because agencies are more aware that these sites exist. It doesn't mean there are no clients there, so it can still be a great idea to give it a try and see how it works for you. But let's say you're open to being a freelancer for creative agencies as well as clients. That could also be an added benefit to posting to these sites. I also suggest having your own website in addition to these portfolio sites, because you have so much more control. We don't know if these websites are going to go bankrupt or go down or something else happens to them over time. So on our own website, we are building up our own SEO over time. We can have email lists, we can have control over the layout, the language, everything about it. We can make it our own brand. So I think having your own website, even if you're not putting a ton of effort into it all the time, is really key to building a business. I also want to say something about what I'm going to call design competition sites here. These are sites where either the client posts a project and then different designers get to compete for that project, or they might get in touch directly with you, but they're always or usually offering very, very low, below market value prices. In the very first months of our business, we tried to be on these sites and we offered so many different free designs without getting paid basically anything. I think we maybe have won one. Not only are these sites very difficult to break into because there's so much competition, but just the pure math of how many design projects you have to apply to or how many designs you have to submit before you get paid, and the amount that you actually get paid, just means that you're really opening yourself up to doing so much work for basically no money. Being on these sites can also harm your brand. We've had customers that came to us after having hired someone from a site like this, and they had legal issues, they had quality issues, and general customer service issues. Even if that's not you, you can't control the reputation of that platform. So having your own website where you're listing your own services or promoting them through social media, I think is a much better option than trying to build a brand on these platforms. Because it also takes a lot of time and effort to build up your brand recognition and get a good rating on these platforms. So if you're going to put all that effort into it, I suggest doing it to the things that are going to work for you long term. I'm aware that everyone has really different income needs, so the prices are of course very relative depending on how much money you need to make every month. But I still think it's a better idea to work on something that we can control and that we can actually work on long term. Overall, these sites also set expectations for what you're supposed to pay a designer. And when we have these sites that basically are a race to the bottom in terms of prices, we basically are not doing a favor for the creative community. Number 5 is to use your existing network. I decided to put this one last because what network you have is incredibly personal. Jeremy and I started our business in a city where we had never lived before and we didn't have any relatives. So in a way, we were starting from scratch. We didn't really get any work from our network for the first couple of years, but as we moved country and back to a place where we had more family and relatives, we were actually able to get a couple of leads from the people that we knew. And I think it's really important to consider not only your immediate network, but your extended network. Maybe someone that you have on LinkedIn from a previous job that you had, or let's say someone that you went to high school with, or someone that has started a business or knows someone that started a business. Most of the time that we get through our initial network is something that can be a slightly different dynamic than we're used to, especially if it's someone that we're really close to and suddenly we're having a working relationship. So it's important to try to really think about your process. But this is also a great opportunity for you to try what it's like to work with people who have different opinions, a different vision, and to test out your creative process. And it can also be a great way to get that initial work up on your portfolio. If you do have a bigger network, let's say you worked in different creative businesses before and you decided to go out on your own, I think a place like LinkedIn, where you can let people know that you started your own business and you're open to looking for clients, can be a great announcement to make, because a lot of people want to help. It feels really good to help someone. So it's always a good thing to ask. So that's why I wanted to add it to this list as well. As you can see, there are so many different approaches to getting your first 10 customers, and which one you choose is really up to your personality and your own business goals. I, for example, love talking to people in person, but it makes me really tired. So Jeremy is the one who has taken a lot more of the in-person networking, and I'm doing a lot more things like this, where I'm talking to you directly to camera. I think the key is to pick different options that feel good to you, and that you can test out for at least 6 to 12 months before you're really expecting many results. This might mean that you need to build your business alongside studying or working another job, or that you build up a financial buffer before you start, so that you have 6 to 12 months at least, where you're actually able to work on your business without feeling stressed about paying your bills. When we're really stressed about money, it usually means that we say yes to projects that were actually not a good fit, or maybe a person who's not treating us nicely. So having that buffer is going to be really important. When we started our business, the first 2 years we were both studying, and for the next 1.5 years we had a side job taking care of dogs and doing dog walking and dog boarding. Now let's move on to going from those 10 customers that you had all the way up to 50. This is super exciting. You have your first 10 clients and you've had a chance to try out your creative process. You probably had some things that felt really fun and some that felt really stressful. I remember early on we had to basically panic Google how to design a newsletter while we were talking to a client. To be fair, it was 2015, so it wasn't as easy, but these things are going to come up and you're going to learn from them. Now it's time to start scaling our business. And we've already built up a little bit of credibility and a little bit of a brand and network. So where do we go from here? I think the next step should be to strengthen our brand, increase our income, and also find ways to create more consistent income. First off, we want to refine our offers. Now that we've had this opportunity to speak directly to 10 clients, we can start to think about how we can make our offers more compelling. Were there certain things that no one really seemed to need? Was there something that was always missing? Can we change our language around it to describe this, for example? This is a great opportunity to update your service page and maybe even make a little bit more defined packages of your services that make it easier for customers to buy in. You can also have a think back and think about your creative process overall. Were there any stages that felt quite confusing? Maybe you had a lot of proposals sent out, but people didn't really say yes. What was the reason for that? Can you start to analyze where you were getting stuck and how we can improve that process? We also want to start raising our prices at this stage. We have a little bit more experience and we want our prices to reflect that. We definitely don't have to go crazy, even if you're just starting to raise by 5% every couple projects, and you can start to see what the response is. Generally, if everyone just says yes right away, it usually means your prices are too low. And if you're getting some pushback, then you might be starting to get closer to a good point. It's usually a good idea to compete with yourself, meaning that you're actually offering a couple different package options. So let's say someone is interested in branding, you might be offering something that is a more logo and style guide option, one that is full on visual identity, and one that is also including a lot of social media templates or a lot more strategy, for example. So that if you have someone with a limited budget, they can pick the package that is more suitable to them rather than just saying yes or no. To strengthen your brand, you can start to think on how you can build onto the marketing strategy that you've already created. For example, let's say you're creating content on YouTube or on Instagram in video format. You can see if there's a way that you can partner up and do collaborations with another creator who has the same customer base. For example, Jeremy and I hosted a couple different workshops completely for free together with the networking event hosts so that we were able to get in front of people as experts. And that was a really good strategy for us to keep building our network and our customer base. We also partook in some interviews about being a creative or running a business or being a startup, for example. And so all these different things are things that you can start to have a think about how it expands your brand beyond your current social media strategy. Lastly, we want to think about how we can future-proof our business by building on to the customers that we already have. We don't want our business to be a constant churn where we have one client come in and leave and never come back. Referrals and repeat work are some of the most powerful ways to build a consistent and successful creative business. So how can we actually encourage this to happen? Number one is to give your clients an amazing customer experience, but number two is also to ask. I don't know about you, but in the beginning, I felt a little bit awkward asking people for referrals or asking if they wanted to keep collaborating with us, but it's something that you can actually work into your process automatically. What we do is we have a handoff package at the end of the project where we say thank you, we share all the different files, and we make it super easy for them to refer someone to us. Or we also put a list at the end with different services that we think could be a good fit for them. This is something that is custom created for them, and because they already had a great experience with us, they're so much more likely to say yes than someone who's coming as a cold lead. I used to think I didn't have to do this because we had all of our services listed on our website, but since a lot of our customers come through referrals or social media, a lot of our customers have actually never seen our website, which might seem really surprising. But it's always a good idea to just make sure that they're aware of the services that you offer so that if they need something, they can come to you. Now on to the very last stage when you've had your first, let's say 50 customers and you're building that long-term vision. We're just using this number as a ballpark figure to start to signal that your business is starting to get a lot of consistent leads and you can focus on different things than just putting people into that top of the funnel. If you have kept refining your process and offering your customers a really great experience, then you probably have a couple people who come back year after year with new projects. At this stage, at least in my head, I think it's really important to have a mix of those clients that come back year after year and completely new clients that you can bring into your business. Both from a stability perspective in your business, where you know that you always have that repeat work, but also from a creativity perspective of developing your skills, working with new industries, and building out your network. This is a really important aspect. To help strengthen your business, you can start to think about different types of projects. We have one-off projects, which is when someone comes to you and they do a project. Even if it's a repeat customer, it's a standalone piece. We can also have repeat work, which is, let's say every year you design a brochure for the same client at the same time. And then you can also have retainers. For repeat work, we don't really have to do any of the selling or the marketing because we have that customer who is going to already know you, and it's easy to work together because you know each other's processes and what they prefer. I think it can be important though to have a minimum commitment so that you don't end up doing a lot of work for, let's say, $50 or something that actually takes you quite a long time because you have to get started and design something and send it off. So having, let's say, for us, it's usually something like $400 or $500 as a minimum for a project, unless it's someone that we work with all the time. Having that minimum is a good way to respect your time and make sure that you're not getting stuck in too many small projects. Retainers are something that you're offering, let's say a bank of hours or a certain service that you're doing every month, for example, like creating social media content for a brand. And the benefit of these to the client is that they know that the thing is going to happen and they usually get a reduced price. Now, we want to make sure that we're looking at that price and of course not lowering it too much, but we're basically trading a little bit of a discount for the security of knowing that we have that income every month or every quarter, for example. If you're setting up a retainer, I think it can be a good idea to have a minimum commitment time from them. So if they're setting up a retainer, maybe they need to commit for at least 3 months in the beginning, and then they need to tell you, let's say 1 or 2 months ahead if they're going to cancel. This way you can plan ahead and you know that you can take on a certain amount of work so that you're not turning down other work and then they cancel their retainers. I like to use time tracking tools like Toggle, for example, just to make sure that what I'm actually charging is very balanced with the work that I'm offering them. At this point, you can also start to reflect on the type of business that you want to build. Do you want to have a lifestyle business that helps you work 30 hours a week and then hang with your kids after school? Or do you want to build an empire with lots of employees that are doing lots of different services, for example? There are so many different paths we can take, and my biggest advice to you is just to say it's okay to change your mind as many times as you like. My biggest advice to build a good, successful creative business is to find ways to persist and learn along the way. This means finding ways to make the finances work, especially in the early years, making sure you take time off to just completely decompress and reserve that creative energy, and also to make sure that you're taking on new challenges that feel exciting and learning new skills along the way. A lot of people I hear talk about business and how to build a successful business. They list competition and building up your skill as a creative as the two biggest challenges, but I think it's actually burnout. So many of us absolutely love what we do, but we feel really disheartened when we get stuck into too much project management or admin or marketing even, and the pressure of posting consistently. Clients are going to hire people that they trust, and building up that trust takes time. That's why I think the biggest investment we can do in our business is to really keep an eye on our mental health and our creative spark. Not all days are like a party, but at least some days should be. And I think it's really important to make sure that we're celebrating all of the little small wins and not setting goals that are so ambitious that we get really demotivated. That's my spiel. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I'm just wanting to say that you're doing such an exciting thing starting your own business, and I'm sending you all the support that I can. Make sure that if you have a question, you can ask it in the comments, and maybe the comments can also be a great way to find your next creative partner as a way to grow your business and also get just creative fulfillment. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your projects and see you next time.